Hello and welcome to the Benefit of the Doubt podcast. I'm your host, Adam Dowd, and joining me is Cliff Thomas. Cliff, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's the week of Christmas, and I'm always excited to podcast and talk about consumer electronics. So here we are.
It is, and here we are indeed. So today we are taking a look. So we've already done our iPhone 14 Pro Max review. Now we're going to go with the other half of your purchase from Apple with the Apple Watch Series 8 review, which I have to say I'm a little jealous of. I mean, I have the Apple Watch SE, the first generation, which honestly is fine for me. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little jealous of the Series 8, just because there's a few extra things that I'd like to see in there. But anyway, yeah. So that is what we are talking about today.
Sure.
Why don't we start off with your overall impressions of it, the 1,000-yard, the high level view.
That's highest level view. I mean, like way out here. Oh, it's
right,
zooming.
exactly.
Oh, it's zooming.
Fancy new webcam there. Coming soon to a review near you.
This is pretty exciting. So, I'll mention that real quick. So for I guess it was the iPhone review, I used the continuity camera with the iPhone, which I was very impressed with. But honestly, I'm very impressed with this Lumina camera that I have. I did it in the same room. And I feel like it's very, very similar, if not just as good. So yeah, like you said, coming soon to a review cam near you. I don't know how we do. How do we do it? That's so meta.
Can we review the review cam? I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll have to figure that out.
I could use the
Series 8. Let's focus here. Let's focus.
The iPhone to focus on the camera. Oh, it'll be so meta. So. Yeah, I wanted to give some perspective for me since we're talking about the 1,000-foot view, and this is my first Apple Watch right here on my wrist. Look at that.
Very cool.
Hey, look. Oh my gosh.
The SE was
cool
indeed mine. Yeah, actually, it's zooming in quite nicely. We did not expect that. That was just a fun Lumina bonus.
Yeah, another Lumina bonus. Yeah, so I have had smartwatches of some kind since the original Pebble that launched. So it's not like I haven't used my fair share of smartwatches. I mean, probably 5 or 6 different, at least Android Wear / Google Wear / whatever else they have called it over the years. But yeah, this is my first Apple Watch. And it's, I think, as I said on my last review, this is the first time I've used also an iPhone since the 10. And during that time, I could never justify the price of buying an Apple Watch. But, now just, thinking about, I think competitors have now sort of matched the Apple Watch in that more, you have those more expensive tiers. So
yeah.
Back when it was $150 for us, or $99, depending on what you're talking about, it was a little bit different. But
yeah. Now with like Google and Samsung are both hitting the easy 200, 300
exactly
level mark.
And I think in general, like the competition has started to match them more in like materials, and I don't think they matched it in the experience at all, and that's what we'll talk about in the review. No, not yet. I mean, and there's out there are some more like dedicated fitness watches and things like that too that have their benefits and their negs, which I know you've actually been using the Garmin watch for a while, or a Garmin watch for a while, so I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on that at some point. But yeah, so I went with a cellular version. This is the Apple Watch Series 8 in a 45 millimeter size, and yes, it's more expensive, but the nice thing about when you go through a carrier and you purchase it is that you get to spread your payments out. And then I was able to trade in another smartwatch, and so really it's only costing me about $5 a month, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Maybe 10. Yeah, exactly. The iPhone, on the other hand, that's another story in terms of the expense. But yeah, the first thing I want to talk about, just from before I go into like the levels of just using the hardware, the software experience. I'll just talk about the cellular experience, which is really nice. And that's specifically, this is the first smartwatch I've ever had where I can just walk out of the house without my phone if for some reason I forget it, and I still get phone calls. And I can still do a lot of the things that I do on, text and things like that. That is so nice. I don't know why I haven't done this before.
Yeah, I don't have that, and I think that's one of kind of like VR and kind of like smartwatches in general. Until you have it, you don't know that you need it, but
Right.
once you do have it, you never want to not have it. But I'm not there yet. I do not have cellular connectivity on my watch, so but yeah, I would definitely love to hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think I'm using, and I can say this about smartphones too, because my usage with the smartwatch is pretty simple. I want notif- Oh, and as I say this, WatchOS 9.2 has just said that it's available to install on my watch. Did you hear that notification?
I did.
That was weird. Okay. I don't know what that brings, but yeah, well, I'm not going to do that during our review of it.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, it's probably not the best timing. So yeah, I don't really take advantage of a lot of the things that this watch can do. I mean, I'm not really into fitness, if you can't tell by my Rubenesque physique. I do take advantage of things that it has, like the echocardiogram and heart rate and blood monitoring, just because, and sleep tracking and things like that, just because it's built in and it's pretty seamless. You
Sure.
just kind of, I do not use Apple Fitness Plus because, again, fat body. That's an extra service
Same.
that you can pay for that integrates to with your smartphone and your watch. So I'm kind of knocking the things out of the things that you won't hear me talking about, because it just doesn't really apply to me. And that's the nice thing about the Apple Watch, is you don't have to use those things to take advantage of those things to still have a good experience. You really can tailor the experience to what your needs are. And so, I can see how this watch appeals to a broad spectrum of people. Now, if you look, I've actually, my watch came with the Sport Band, which when I ordered it from Verizon, I asked for I think I said the medium large, and they gave me the small medium. And
Uh-oh.
I have pretty chunky wrists, which is why actually I also got the 45 millimeter, because otherwise I really think that the smaller one would have just looked silly on my wrist.
I think I got the 40 millimeter Apple Watch, and I think I'm okay with that, like size wise. But you might have chunkier wrists than I do.
I
I'm
do.
not judging.
The thing is, I'm not an extraordinarily big guy, but I for some reason I have like really really wide wrists, and so I always have to. But anyway, so I wore this watch with that Sport Band for a week, and it actually was surprisingly comfortable considering how tight it was on my wrist. And I guess that's because those bands can kind of stretch a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
totally.
I got a leather band from Best Buy. That's a Horwing leather, so I really enjoy that, and it matches more of my personal aesthetic. I don't even want to fool people into thinking that that I'm an athletic person. Haven't been
Right.
that since like my early 20s. So yeah, but with that said, let's get into if you want to just play that video, well, I'll start talking about the software experience here.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So I just put together a sort of a mini review cam here without actually doing it live, and you can see. I mean, if you've used an Apple Watch before, um, then you understand the navigation. But I don't have a ton of apps installed. I do love the digital crown, and then the one hardware button on the side to navigate it back. I'm just tapping my fingers there on the side just so you can see that I'm about to use a button. But
So you went with the Beehive launcher,
I
huh?
did, yeah. In fact, when you install when you first boot it up, I think it gives you options like, would you like to do this way or this way or
Yeah.
this way, and you can configure it. As you can see on the screen there, there's your pretty standard, what I would very similar to actually Android Wear in that perspective. Your controls of your hardware, like your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your notifications.
Yeah.
So I would say that just getting into the watch is very intuitive, especially if you've used smartwatches before. On the video, you can see here that I'm showing you just sort of the interactions that you can do with the watch, whether it's showing your notifications or swapping between watch faces. Now, I will say there are a ton of smartwatch faces for this, and I haven't even done anything like Facer to do custom ones.
Yeah,
Um,
there are. And
but
yeah, Facer is amazing.
is it? I'll have to do that at some point. But one thing I really did love about the uh, just and I think I say this about most Apple hardware and software, is just the attention to detail, right? So when you saw me there switching watch faces, now that's pretty standard in terms of swapping between watch faces, where you're just swiping to the left or the right. But with the Apple Watch, you have that glass that rolls off the side. But if you come in on the watch just a little bit, it won't accidentally swap watch faces, which is really nice. You really have to go over to the side, and that's, I guess you could call that edge detection, kind of like on a.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd use that term.
But I that's just polished software, so that you don't accidentally swap a watch face or something like this, and then hold your wrist up later to say, "Hey, why why
Right.
is that?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden is my watch face different?" So yeah, so again, I think in terms of me using this, I didn't find it to be an experience that was hard to figure out. I mean, I didn't really do any tutorials or anything like that. I was able to just kind of to jump in and figure out how to use it. So that's again a tribute to Apple's "it just works" mentality,
Hmm.
or philosophy, right? Um, so like I said, I'm not really taking advantage of a lot of the things that this watch can do. So really, I'm just getting in there and doing things like responding to a Telegram notification or a message from somebody. And sometimes I actually do take a phone call on it. And the quality of the microphone is awesome. The display
Hmm.
is freaking amazing, as you would expect it to be, especially for this price.
Yeah.
It's very quick. I think that I mean, I think even with your SE, you'd probably say that it's not an unresponsive.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
this does have
And
a. Go ahead. I'm
oh, go
sorry.
ahead. I was
Oh,
gonna say, and it's very responsive when you do, when you lift your wrist, it turns on right away. There's not a
right.
lot of the whole wrist flipping that you have to do in order to get it to activate. Are you using always on display on yours?
Yes. So that's one advantage of the Series 8 over, I think, both the SE and then the SE second generation, and that's one of the reasons I went with the Series 8. Probably
Hmm.
the main reason, honestly, over the cellular version of the second generation SE,
Okay.
was for the always on display, and
Okay.
I do appreciate that. I also actually really like it on the new iPhone too. So yeah, especially when you're paying this much for a smartwatch. I mean, yes, it does affect your battery life, but this is, I mean, the Apple Watch, and I'll talk about this in just a second, but I mean, it's not like it's an all week device if I turn the always on display off.
Off. Right.
I
Yeah.
really feel like it takes about a half a day off, and I've yet to kind of figure out like what my best routine is for that. Right now, when I get home, I take it off and put it on the charger. And I know a lot.
Okay.
I've talked to people who literally never take their watch off except when they take a shower, and they just
Hmm.
throw it on the charger when they take a shower, come back, and it gets them through basically a day to day without ever charging it to 100%, which actually is probably better for the battery
Probably the
health.
healthier thing to do, battery
Hmm.
life, speaking. Yeah. The other day, actually, I did that. I tossed it. Normally, I'm kind of like I'll sit down at my desk in the morning and toss it on the charger because I want to do the sleep tracking.
Right.
Because I
Hmm.
want to know why I feel like crap every day. So,
Has it helped
um,
with that?
yeah. So the other day when I usually take showers at night. So the other day when I was taking a shower in the morning, I just tossed it on the charger. Then I was actually kind of surprised, like it was almost charged all the way back up by the time I got out. So
And
yeah,
this does support fast charging. Now, I mean, fast charging with Apple is
yeah,
sort of
that's a
almost a
very
misnomer.
subjective term.
Right, exactly. But I mean, yeah, I've noticed that I can when I have done the thing where I set it on my charger and take a shower and get dressed. By the time I get back, it's usually up about 20 to 30%. So
Yeah.
I mean, it does give it a nice little boost. Um, I I have done sleep tracking with it. I will say that with this wrist strap that I bought for it, I really it's fine for wear during the day, but I find it kind of uncomfortable to wear at night. So I
Okay.
really am considering going back and getting the silicone strap that Apple offers, and just getting the larger size.
I mean,
Uh,
honestly, go on Amazon. There's a ton. I like
there
the
are a ton of them. Are they as good though? Like,
Well, I mean, this is the one that I have. This is not the Apple one, I don't think,
yeah,
but it's got the trypto what is it called with the holes? I don't remember the tryptophobia.
I guess that helps it
Um,
breathe on your arms so it doesn't get
yeah,
sweaty.
maybe I just kind of like the style of it, but yeah. So I got this off of Amazon. I want to say it was less than $10.
Oh, I've
And I
seen
know
pack
you can get packs of wrist
exactly like
straps for like
it's like
10
six
bucks.
straps for like $10, and I'm like, like
Yeah,
I've thought about that, but see, the thing is, I don't really want to switch my watch strap all the time. I'm not somebody that matches my watch strap to
I
what
like
I'm
to change
wearing.
it up every now and then. Like for example, I will not wear this wrist strap when traveling because like all you have to do is just like pull it off and it's gone.
Oh,
So I
gotcha.
actually have like a normal buckle one, which honestly for pickpockets is not necessarily that much of a deterrent, but
No,
it's more of a deterrent than this thing. I mean, this thing is just whoop, there you go.
it really
So
is.
yeah, it's a little sick. So when I travel, I usually
You
swap
know,
it out for a
that's
normal
something I don't think
buckle
about
one.
enough. Maybe it's just because of where I live, and it's not to say that it couldn't happen, but I guess I just don't worry about it nearly as much, even when I'm in the big city, so to speak. That's still
Yeah, I'm
like
the jaded Chicagoan.
150,000 people. Chicago's a little different, right? Or even if you're going, you're traveling to. I mean, I would really worry about it at like Disney World or something where you're
Yeah,
in those
yeah.
close quarters, and you're brushing up against people all the time anyway. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think I am going to get. If not the Apple band, but then something like that I think is going to be more comfortable to sleep with. Because while I'm not taking advantage of a lot of what this watch can do, sleep tracking is something that I do want to pay attention to. And I mean, it's going to be one of my New Year's goals to try to lose some weight. And I'm not trying to run a marathon or anything, but
Yeah.
that was one of the ways I justified to myself buying the Apple Watch, spending the extra money on that, was so that I could track my fitness and track my journey, I guess, as much as anything else. Because I mean, I'm
Yeah.
getting to that point. I'm to that age where now I'm gonna have to do things like have a colonoscopy.
Hmm. Welcome to the
And
club.
yep, oh boy. And so, this will aid me with that. That's also how I justified purchasing it to my wife. So there you go. If you need an Apple Watch and
Tell your wife it'll help
you're
you lose weight.
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
So what would you say, like, let's kind of put a number on it if we can, for like total battery life. What are you getting, like a day and a
Cons-
half, 2 days,
consistently a day and a half. Yeah.
a day and a half? Okay. Yeah,
If
see,
I
I'm
can make I
oh, go
I
ahead.
can make it a day and 3/4, but it's literally just it gets to the point where I have to put it on battery saver, and by that point, what's the
There's no
point?
point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would say like the Apple Watch. This is the first generation Apple Watch SE, and I want to say probably about 28 hours ish. So like I'll get through a day and then a little bit extra the next day,
Right.
but then I need to charge it. So
I think
um,
I think if I
not
was
quite day and a
doing
half.
I think if I was doing more, like if I was using GPS, if I was doing any
Oh
kind of
sure,
navigation,
sure.
using the radios more than I do using the cellular stuff, it's definitely about a day. I mean, that is another advantage of the 8 over, I guess, the SE is it does have a larger battery, but I think also because of that, it's a little. I mean, I wouldn't call this thick.
Yeah, I
Uh,
wouldn't either.
yeah, it's pretty nice. I had a friend over the other day, and he has the Ultra, and that is a chunker. Like that is a big boy.
I've seen actually a couple of ultras in the wild, which really surprised me, honestly, when I saw them. I'm like,
Hmm.
really? Like, there was a nurse wearing one. I'm like, okay. But anyway, yeah, it is. I wouldn't say it's like super duper, like not like Garmin Captain, Michael Fisher wearing a
Right, like
wearing
an inch tall, and it lasts
yeah, like
a
a
few
like a
months.
discus on his wrist or anything
Right.
like that. But yeah, it is fairly chunky. So all right, day and a half. So that's cool.
Day and a half,
Let's
and then I was going to say something else that I haven't done is install a lot of third party apps. I don't have a lot of like as an example, you use yours for your smart home stuff, right?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah. Like
and
arming the house and
right.
disarming the
Hmm.
house, opening the garage, stuff like that. More in the summer because like I'm in and out more during the summer than
Right.
I am during the winter. But yeah, like using my watch to open my garage is amazing, especially when I'm coming in from a long bike ride and I don't want to have to like pull out my phone and whatnot. But and like when I had the delivery box, which I still have it, I just took the lock out of it. But when I had the delivery box, I could use my watch to unlock the box. So yeah, I wouldn't even have to go find my phone when I got a delivery, which was nice. I mean, it's amazing. And that transitions us very nicely into what I think is like the headline of any
Hmm.
Apple Watch review has to be the software and specifically the integration
The
between
integration. Hmm.
between the watch and the phone because it is just nobody's close. I mean, nobody's even slightly close. I held out a little hope that maybe the Pixel Watch would do a little bit of it, but the Pixel Watch doesn't do a darn thing, and it's so disappointing.
It
It is
is.
so very disappointing.
That that
But yeah,
whole that whole ecosystem is just so splintered and broken, and I mean that really shows one of the reasons why Apple's work so well. It is that vertical integration because yes, the Pixel Watch is made by Google, but it's still
hmm
a processor developed by Samsung and a Wear OS 3 that really Samsung hardware or Samsung smartwatches and now the Pixel Watch
hmm
just doesn't work that well. If you go back and use an Android Wear based watch from like 3 or 4 years ago, and then you use Wear OS 3, I mean, it is definitely a lot better, especially from like the speedy side. But I
yeah.
mean, there is just no comparison. It
No,
honestly,
there isn't.
it there. Here's really the thing. I traded in my I had a it's not Galaxy Watch anymore, is it?
Was
It's
it the Galaxy Watch 4?
so I'll just say it's the Galaxy Watch 4. I couldn't remember if they had changed the name of it, but yes, I
There was a
traded that in.
Galaxy Watch 4 and then the Classic, I believe. So I
Right, and
did,
I had just
but
the
I don't.
regular
Yeah,
4.
you didn't have the Classic because you and I had the same watch
Right.
up until then.
And while I didn't enjoy that, and there is definitely a lot of integration with Samsung software, it's still just it's not even on the same planet.
No.
And part of it is that uh, there's so much more third party support for the Apple Watch,
Oh yeah,
and it's
absolutely. I mean,
so much better integrated.
it is. And I mean, I actually kind of wish I had review cam up right now because I was just kind of like while you were talking, I was just scrolling through the apps that I have on my phone and then like I've got one password. I've got any list. So if I'm going shopping, I can pull up my any list. I've got Atom. So if I'm going to the movies, I can pull up my ticket on my watch. United. I've got United on here. So when I
Hmm.
fly, I can have my boarding pass on my watch. And it's possible the boarding pass thing might work on Android Wear. I don't know. Um,
I think it depends on the app, honestly.
it probably does, but like Messenger, that's fine. That's normal stuff. MLB, you can look up baseball scores on your
Hmm.
watch with a Google Watch, but you have to go through Google Assistant. This has the native MLB app right there. The garage we already talked about. Panera, I can order a bread bowl if I wanted to from my watch. I mean, come on, it's not even close.
I
It's
know,
it's
and
it's ridiculous.
and even the interactions, like I mentioned on at the beginning of the review, sometimes I have gone out without my phone, and just things like if I don't use Siri to respond, and I use the software keyboard. I thought it would be horrible just because of how tiny it is, because it's not great on Android Wear or other smartwatches that
Yeah,
I've used
it's not
outside of it.
bad. I use
It's
Siri for everything,
it's
but
but it's very usable.
do you do the handwriting at all ever?
The swiping? Oh, no, I have not done the handwriting. To me, that just seems clunky.
It's okay. It's not great. If you're familiar with Apple's autocorrect issues, then you can guess where where their handwriting goes. But for like real short things that like I don't necessarily like, if I don't have the greatest coverage, I'll use that just because I think the Siri voice thing requires an internet connection. I could be wrong about that, but I'll use it very
Yeah,
sparingly.
I
Mostly,
don't
I
think
just
it's doing
dictate.
local processing on a watch, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the, between the pretty intuitive uh, or smart responses that are the canned responses that it gives you when you get a
Yeah, those work pretty well.
notification. Honestly, a lot of the times it's smart enough to give me ones that are usually pretty relevant. And then I use the swipe method on on the keyboard for both my watch and my phone,
Okay.
and it's pretty good. And honestly, I have limited experience with Siri. I just don't use. I never. I mean, I didn't use Google Assistant that much.
Still a dumpster fire.
Really,
But
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like it's a lot better than it used to be.
It's I mean, it's probably better, but it was a very low bar. I have the
It's true.
Google app installed on my iPhone, and I will frequently ask Siri and then follow up and get a real answer from Google, because Siri just doesn't. I think asked what was the runtime for Wakanda Forever. I asked Siri, and it came back with like, "Here's where you can watch the movie." I'm just like, "No, that's not what I asked." And I asked Google, and sure enough,
Right. I
yeah,
think for those kind of things that Google Assistant is still far superior. But for
yeah,
things that I
it's
do,
not
like
again, not even
turn
close.
up the volume, turn down the volume, I use it in my car with CarPlay and on my watch, and for things like that, it works great, and it's very responsive. It's very fast in terms of
Yeah,
when it comes up. So for those limited use kind of things where it's very those quick interactions, I find it to be just fine.
yeah.
I think where it actually has to go out and crawl the web and find an answer, that Google's got it beat hands down still for sure.
So
Um,
let's wrap things up here a little bit.
sure.
We're
You know,
approaching the 30-minute mark.
one thing
So
I didn't talk about too much, and I think this is kind of expected, but the hardware itself. I mean, and this is not the Ultra. This is the just basically I guess you'd call this like the middle run, other than that it's the cellular version, so it's a little bit
now it
more
is, yeah.
expensive, right? But I mean, the hardware is just exquisite. The way that the glass just seamlessly roll, here we go, just kind of seamlessly rolls off into that aluminum. The way it
Hmm.
feels, it's very scratch resistant. As far as, in fact, I think with the 8, it's supposed to be the most scratch resistant glass they've used, except I guess now the Ultra, because I think it's got sapphire.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the Ultra has a small team of engineers that like actively fight back things that might
right,
scratch the watch face
exactly.
on it. Like they just kind of hang out around you and make sure you
So
don't hit anything.
this will be. I actually feel like we should do a follow up review, because I'm still about a month and a half in and using this, and I have a lot of things planned that I want to do with this. Like I said, the fitness stuff, the sleep tracking that I honestly just I haven't used too much. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
hey,
I
it's our channel. We can do what we want.
right, exactly. It's the 6 months later. How do you feel about
Yeah,
it now? But yeah,
definitely.
I think my main takeaway, honestly, is it makes me never want to use a different smartwatch, as far as you're like for competing uses, right? So just like your
Hmm.
versus like Android Wear, like you said, there's no contest. This is the way a smartwatch should be. And I
Yeah,
understand that there are definitely, if you are really into fitness, especially, there are some very specific uses out there for like a Garmin watch, or
yeah.
a Sunto watch, the where or
We'll talk
smartwatch
about that.
a smartwatch that like something from like Huawei, where it's really just a fitness band.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk
Um,
about that. That's going to be the subject of a later video.
gotcha.
But for now, let's just kind of wrap things up. Do you regret buying it? Would
No,
you,
absolutely not.
no? Okay. So like if you had to give it, we don't really do a star thing or a rating thing, but let's say out of 15, what would you rate it? Just because everybody else does 10.
11.
11? All right.
Mhm.
11 out of 15.
I
That's
think if it had better battery life, that would definitely push it up. You know,
okay. All right.
but
No, that's
but and it's also limited use. But I mean,
yeah, we can go
if you're
Spinal
talking
Tap.
about
That's cool.
15, I would call the competition more like a 7 or a
Oh
6,
yeah. Yeah, yeah. This is only an 11, but God, everyone else is like a 6.
if they're
It's so
lucky,
bad.
and that's
But
the
no,
best of the competition.
we'll definitely talk about some of the competition in an upcoming video. But for now, I mean, yeah, if we're at a solid 11, that's good for me. So I'd say let's go ahead and wrap this up, this episode of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to the podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show or subscribe down below and smash that bell. You know what? I improvised and I skipped over some of my outro. So whoops. Anyway, so you'll be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. If you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the doubt. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes and for buying the Apple Watch Series 8 so that we could review it. But most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for giving us the benefit of the doubt. That didn't work. It's not working. There we go. I'm really good at these videos.